You are listening to an interview with Child Life Mommy in episode 13 of the Child Life On Call podcast.
Oftentimes when we go, there's been a few instances where every trick that I could use, every tool, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I am left feeling defeated and frustrated with myself because here I am, a certified child life specialist, and I have this blog and I have these resources. I do community work. I have the private practice, and none of it worked for my kids. And I feel, just unsuccessful as a parent too. Like, oh my God, how come it didn't work? And as I reflect on it, I often kind of go through, okay, these are the things that didn't work, but here are the things that did work, and just coming to like the very basics of like, I was honest. I held them in a comfort hold. They cried and they had a really hard time, but it was okay.
Hi, and happy Child Life Month. I am so happy to have you here listening in on today's episode. Over the past 12 episodes, we've heard from some amazing parents, but today's episode will be just a little bit different. In honor of March and the fact that it is Child Life Month, I'm going to feature an incredible woman and child life specialist, Shani Thornton from Child Life Mommy. Along with being the author of the children's book, It's Time for Your Checkup, What to Expect When You're Going In for a Doctor's Visit, Shani is a big voice in the child life world. If you follow Child Life on any sort of social media, you've probably come across her website, childlifemommy.com. In today's episode, you will hear her talk about her child life career, her current private practice and community-based programs, and of course, her life as a mom. So without further ado, let's just get started, and here is my conversation with Shani.
So my name is Shani Thornton. I've been a certified child life specialist for a little over 10 years. I got into the field in a very random way, like most of us have. I was working as a recreation therapist assistant at a local children's hospital in San Diego. And during my time there, I remember feeling like there was something else I was supposed to be doing, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was. So I started just really connecting with all of the staff there, and I was trying to figure out, is it nursing? Is it OT? Is it speech? What is it? I couldn't figure it out. And I remember we had a patient who was referred to the main hospital. We were on campus. It's a convalescent hospital. And she was referred to Child Life for an upcoming medical procedure. And I was like, wait, what's Child Life? And I said, I got to figure this out. I went home immediately. I looked it up, and everything I read about it just resonated like very deeply with me. And I'm like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So basically I did my research, and I went to grad school at Bank Street College of Education in New York and started doing my volunteer work there during school, got my internship, and then just fell in love with the profession. It is like, I live and breathe child life. I love it. So that's basically my entrance into it. And I totally do it in a non-traditional way. I'm very much outside of the box type of specialist.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. What is your role as a child life specialist now?
So currently I am very much in a community-based setting. I have done a million different things outside of the traditional role with being in the hospital. So I have a private practice that I launched in New York. I currently live in California, which I moved here about 7 months ago. So I'm in the works of relaunching it here. But it was probably about 6 years ago that while I was working in the hospital, of course, I became pregnant, and I was so excited to be a new mom. And I thought for sure I was going to stay home for that first year with my son. And I did, and I loved it. And it was an amazing time for us. But I wasn't willing to go back into the hospital yet. I didn't want to be away and miss all of those little milestones. And fortunately, I was lucky enough that my husband financially could kind of take care of, the finances so that I could stay at home and enjoy more time with him. But within that first probably year and a half, I was really aching to get back into the child life world. And I couldn't quite figure out how to do it with being a full-time parent. So I started kind of just working with my friends that I met at like Gymboree, and we had, all these little babies the same age. And, many of them had to go to, their wellness visits, and some of them had some surgery. So I was, talking to them about how to prepare them, how to provide some coping strategies. And kind of from there, I started thinking like, wow, I could really kind of do this outside of the hospital. And I eventually found a bereavement program through a local children's hospital, and I started volunteering with them. So I did that for about 6 years as a bereavement facilitator, and it was amazing. I was doing a lot of my child life work with them, and it was fantastic. And then also within those 6 years, it's been probably about 5 years now, I launched a parenting and child life blog and website called childlifemommy.com. And really that was the foundation of taking my work from the hospital and taking it to a much broader community setting. It was my soapbox to kind of stand on and talk about all the amazing things that child life specialists do, like how you can ask for us when you go to the emergency room for your child. How, if there's not a child life specialist, these are some great tools that you can do prior to a hospital visit. This is what you can do to advocate for your child in the hospital. These are things that you can do post hospital experience. And I just started doing a lot of writing and blogging that way, and creating a lot of different things within the community.
It's really impressive how you did that. You basically took a blog and made it into a business. And because I feel like you were one of the, I don't know, but you're one of the most known kind of community-based child life specialists. And I feel like you're like one of the first in our field, and you may not be, but to be so present online and social media and be able to kind of connect other child life specialists with your resources as well.
Yeah, I think that was my main goal. Once I started doing it, I was kind of confused as to why it wasn't already being done. There were already a few small child life bloggers out there, but I really poured my heart and soul into it. And I kind of was like, I am really going to get this out there. I want people to know about our field. And that also was, educating the child life profession. Once I launched the blog, I was like, why aren't child life programs on social media? Why don't they have a Facebook page? Everybody can gain some amazing resources. People don't even know a child life program exists within the hospital, but a lot of people are on social media. So let's get there and connect it together. So I started doing a couple of presentations, both at the Regional Child Life Conference in New York, and also in Cincinnati. I did one there too about child life and social media.
You touched on this a little bit about kind of becoming a mom and how that impacted your role as a child life specialist, and probably vice versa, being a child life specialist and then becoming a mom. Can you talk a little bit about that for us?
Yeah, it's funny. I remember as a student, one of my advisors would constantly kind of remind us. None of us were parents at the time, but she would say, be mindful that when you're in a hospital and you're working with a family, if a parent feels like at some point they cannot talk to you because they just say, like, you're not a parent, you really don't get it. She said, don't take offense to it. Just accept it and kind of work with the situation, because sometimes a parent needs to feel connected with another parent. And if you're a working child life specialist and you're not a parent, they might feel like you really don't get it. And I remember thinking to myself while interning and going through the Bank Street program as well as working, well, I do get it. I feel like I do get it. I'm very supportive with these parents, and I can see it from their perspective, but it wasn't. I swear it was the second I held my son in my arms after I gave birth. I was like, oh my God, I get it. Like, I get it. Like, I totally get it. I'm a parent now. I get it. And it was an awesome feeling. It was this connection, this aha moment I had. But I have to say, being a parent and being a child life specialist, I do a lot of prep and play and, do all of the stuff that we would do in a normal, hospital setting. I do it with my kid at home. And before a medical visit, I would prepare him for it, and we do all our medical play. And sometimes it worked, but sometimes it didn't work. And I remember feeling, and I still do to this day, my kids are now 5.5 and 9. So they very much understand my role as a child life specialist. They know that I will give them the information, prepare them, all of the stuff that they need. But oftentimes when we go, there's been a few instances where every trick that I can use, every tool, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And I'm left feeling defeated and frustrated with myself, because here I am, a certified child life specialist, and I have this blog and I have these resources. I do community work. I have the private practice, and none of it worked for my kids. And I feel, just unsuccessful as a parent too. Like, oh my God, how come it didn't work? And as I reflect on it, I often kind of go through, okay, these are the things that didn't work, but here are the things that did work, and just coming to like the very basics of like, I was honest. I held them in a comfort hold. They cried and they had a really hard time, but it was okay. We got through it. So I try to look at the little successes that I had, even in those moments where I feel like nothing worked, and remind myself that this is part of being human beings, right? Like, these things aren't always going to be perfect. So if you're a child life specialist and you're a parent and sometimes your stuff does not work, it's okay, right? It's okay. Just being present with your child is so much more powerful. Being able to talk with them before and after, and having that open communication, validating their emotions and their feelings. That stuff is doing tremendous, tremendous work for them, but both in that moment, but also in the future for them.
Yeah, I appreciate you speaking to that, because I feel like as a child life specialist and a mom, we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves. So it's nice for us to kind of come together and talk about how, you can go by the book and you can do everything right according to theory, according to practice, but it doesn't always work out that way. And I think once you become a parent, you become much more empathetic to yourself as a child life specialist when you're actually in a room, in the emergency room. You're trying every trick in the book. It's not working, but you can kind of transfer that experience as a parent to being a child life specialist and give yourself a little bit of grace and say, you're right, here are the few things that did work while I was in there. I think we can be our hardest critic when we're in child life, because we just want it to work. We just want what we do to work so that these kids can cope in a positive way. And we want to prove to staff that our practices work. They make a difference. We want them to see that what we do is really useful. It really is. And, but I appreciate you talking about that, because I think we all feel that way.
Yes. It's just pure, being vulnerable, right? You're being so vulnerable. And especially if you're in a setting where the physicians and the nurses, they know your background. They know you're a child life specialist. I have had a lot of connections with our pediatrician, and they knew what I did, and I would try to preach it for them on how to help them utilize some of these practices within their own setting. And then it wouldn't work for my own kid, and I'm like,
of course.
but I promise you, I swear it does work. But but then there's a lot of successful stories that have come from it. So I kind of just have to say, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up too much. So I think that's important for every parent and for every child life specialist to realize that there are little successes, And we need to recognize those, and you just reflect on them. And then how can you make those other challenges that didn't work, maybe we can change it a little bit to try to work better the next time.
Sure. I love that. And even if you are a child life specialist and you're not a parent or don't plan to be a parent, I think you can take some of the kind of advice that you were saying about focus on the little successes and apply it to your practice. But would you mind talking about all the different hats you wear as a community-based child life specialist? Some of your favorite things and what your different roles are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I feel like a mad hatter. What hat am I wearing at the moment? So being in a community-based setting, I do a lot of different things, right? So I was the bereavement facilitator for almost 6 years. I created the Child Life Mommy website and blog. I'm very much on social media with Child Life Mommy and kind of advocating, sharing resources, articles, videos, anything I can get out there that will help parents advocate, that will kind of educate medical team members, but also give empathy to both, to kind of just that family-centered care foundation. I just like to get it out there on social media as much as I can. I'm also an adjunct faculty member at Bank Street, so I've been doing that for probably about 5-ish years, and I helped co-create a course on therapeutic play techniques for child life specialists that when we went from the face-to-face program, we put it on an online format. So we're all online right now. I helped to co-create that with my co-teacher, and I've been co-teaching that course for the last 3 years. So that's another hat that I'm wearing. So I'm with the students. I do a lot of presentations, both at Child Life regional conferences as well as national and various other conferences. So, for teachers and, different types of medical professionals. I also do a lot of work within the community, presentations and workshops at anything from like a community fair to like a Mommy and Me group or at a library, at schools. And it's a great way for me to kind of not just talk about Child Life Mommy so much, but I'm really there to kind of, educate them about the child life field. But if there's like a specific topic, so oftentimes it's just like the basics, of vaccinations, of wellness visits, like how we can help give these parents and educators some tools to help their kids. Different topics on play. Like I'll do a lot of different little workshops that way. I'll also love to do school visits, and that's oftentimes just like in my kids' classrooms. I'll go in and I'll talk about being a child life specialist, and the kids, there'll be like 25 kids. They're all raising their hand. Oh, I got a shot, or oh, my brother broke his arm, or my dad, had surgery. They're all connected to it. And it's such an aha moment for the teachers in the classroom because they're like, oh my God, like you really have a lot of knowledge and skills that could serve these kids in the school. And I'm like, yes, a child life specialist can also be in a school setting. So it's just like planting seeds everywhere. I wrote a children's preparation book called It's Time for Your Checkup, What to Expect When Going to a Doctor Visit. And this is a wellness visit book. I remember taking my son to his checkup at 4 years old, and it was very different from his 3-year-old checkup, right? So they added vision screening, they added a urine sample, they added a blood pressure cuff. And I had prepped him up and down for everything, but I didn't know about those specific ones. And of course, the one he freaks out on is peeing in a cup. Like really, like peeing in a cup, threw them all off. And I just thought to myself, wow, I had everything planned. He was even ready for the blood draw and the vaccination. But how come we don't have a resource for parents? Like, why don't we have a book that has visual pictures, not, of characters, but of real photographs of kids going through this and giving them very simple language, explaining what it is. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it myself. So I went ahead and worked with our pediatrician, created the book, made sure that I highlighted steps to a vaccination as well as steps to a blood test, and then provided information in there to not just the kids, but to the parents too, and medical staff about coping strategies, right? Of like how to distract them, what types of things to distract them with, positions for comfort, using empowering and language that has empathy in it. Instead of, don't cry, you're a big girl, saying, crying's okay, that hurts, like just validating their emotions. So I went ahead and created that book, which has been a great asset for a lot of different people, both locally but also globally. It's kind of going to where it needs to go. It's also a great social story for kids with special needs who are on the autism spectrum. So it's very clear and concrete, and it gives them a step-by-step of what to do. So that's been put on a few autism sites, such as Autism Speaks. It's on there. I'm also another hat. Oh, these Mad Hatters. I am the chair for the private practice subcommittee under the mega committee, ready? Community-based non-traditional role from the ACLP. So it's an exciting thing that I've been part of for the past 3 years. And it's just collaborating with other specialists who are in a community-based setting and trying to gather data and information and get some resources together that we can eventually present to the ACLP board to hopefully be approved and then have it on their website so that we can have these resources to other specialists out there. So that takes up some other time. Of course, I have the private practice that I launched in New York a few years ago. So I'm just providing that in-home child life service for families, going inside their homes and working with them, doing the same stuff that I would do within a hospital, I'm doing in their home environment. It is amazing. There's a lot of things that I've learned. It's a business, so you're kind of learning the business side of it, but it's such a fantastic experience to work with families in their home environment and really see how you can connect with kids in just a different way. When they're in a hospital, it's so different than when they're home. So that's been a really great adventure that I've been doing. And then, of course, since some of those parents, I can't go to their homes, I'll do Skype with them and connect with them through email and work through them that way. But the latest hat that I have taken on, because, I don't have enough, is working with the Standish Foundation for Children. And this is a nonprofit whose mission really is a family-centered care approach on having a curriculum, right? And they educate and they train medical team members, both locally but really globally, to provide kind of like the foundation of child life and to teach them and educate them, to also provide some of those resources for playrooms to these different sites. So I've been working with them, doing their social media and marketing and helping them get some other programs started. So lots of different hats. And then, of course, the biggest hat that I probably wear all the time is I'm a parent 24/7. So my 2 kids take up a lot of my time, and I try to do all this other crazy stuff when they're in school or they're asleep. But I love it. It's a great balance, and I'm able to do so much and feel like I'm filling both my parenting cup, but also my child life cup.
You do a lot of things, and a lot of them just make so much sense. And as a child life specialist who works in a hospital, I'm so appreciative that there is someone like you who's out in the community doing it too, because really, people only know about us if they have to have a hospitalization. But otherwise, they typically don't. We're constantly explaining what we do to people we meet in the grocery store, to even pediatricians sometimes that don't know, or dentists, or it doesn't matter who it is. So the fact that someone like you exists is really amazing. So thank you for all you do. Um,
Well, thank you. I
I'd kind of
appreciate
like
it.
to know, just from your private practice and kind of your experience as a child life specialist, what would be like the top three things that you would share with parents that they could do to either impact a well visit or a hospitalization? Can you kind of consolidate and tell us three of your favorite tips?
I think honesty is the first one. You got to be honest with your kid. You're not taking them to a birthday party. You're taking them to go get their flu shot. You need to be honest with them. It's so important. Oftentimes, parents are just scared of what their child's reaction is going to be. So they don't want to, they're kind of withholding that information. But in reality, you got to give kids credit. They can process this stuff. If you come from a very nurturing and supportive way, then they're going to be able to receive that information and find a way to cope with it. They have to get through these challenges in life. But if you're not honest with them, then how can they trust anybody? So that's number one. I think number two would be, any sort of medical play exposure that you can give to them, especially if you know that they're going in for, just a wellness visit, or they're going to get their flu shot, or, they're going for an upcoming surgery. To provide stuff at home in a way that it's not, you don't have to be so much prep for it if you don't have all the information, but just play. Like, go get a doctor's kit, fill it with real stuff too, like Band-Aids and tape and gauze, and let kids explore and let them play both the role, whatever role they want to play, and just let them explore. I think that kids need that medical play experience. I mean, reading a book is great. Watching video clips on it is fantastic too. But when kids are able to get in there and explore and play, that's going to really help them process what that experience is going to be like. So medical play would be two. I think the third one would be advocating. Oh my God, parents, you guys know your kids better than anybody. Just because the doctor has a white coat and they have all these degrees and they're incredibly smart and they talk to you about these different medical things, and you're like, what are you saying? You know your kid, though, so much better than they do. You know everything about them. You know their coping style. You know what they like, what they don't like. And the biggest thing I would say is to just communicate and advocate for your kids. Give them a voice. If you don't feel comfortable having your child held down for a shot, then say that. Like, no, hey, you know what? Can we try something different? Can I hold my child on my lap? Can my child hold the tongue suppressor in his mouth while he gets a throat swab? Just giving your child a voice is going to do a couple things. One, it's going to help you make that connection with your doctor. A lot of times they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know this. I didn't think about that. So thank you. And it's also going to teach your child the skills of advocating for themselves, so that when they get a little bit older, that they're able to do that and do it in a respectful manner that is going to help them get through a lot of difficult challenges.
I love that. Those are three really good things. Well, thank you so much. Is there any place, I know you mentioned your website, childlifemommy.com, and that you're on social media, I think, as Child Life Mommy on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. But is there any other way that people can get in contact with you or talk to you, or if they want to reach out to you? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. You can always shoot me an email at childlifemommy at childlifemommy@gmail.com. But if you're on social media, I'm definitely on there. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I have the blog. You can always sign up for the email notifications. There's a lot of great resources on there too. I really like to highlight other organizations and programs and phenomenal information that, like, even it comes across, in my screen, and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. Like, I want to get it on my blog. and highlight them and promote them too, in a sense of like letting people know it's out there. So yeah, definitely come check me out. You can shoot me an email, and anything I can do to help out, I'd love to do.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to my conversation with Shani. I will link to her book, social media pages, and contact information on the show notes page. As always, please make sure you're following along with Child Life on Call on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter so you can get the latest updates about what's happening with this podcast. I always love connecting and hearing from you all. Have a great week.